day he brought home a SLUG magazine, and I opened it up and it was like, oh my God, there's this whole other local world. I knew there was something else. I was just drawn to photography. So I got that promotion. 30 days I moved to San Francisco. I'm going to accept this job. Let me tell you something. And I was like, okay, what's up? And he was like, I got this family secret that I haven't known how to tell anyone. So I'm going to stay. I'm going to take over SLUG Magazine. I'm going to help transition you. I learned so much.
What is up, everybody? And welcome back to another episode of the Small Lake City podcast. I'm your host, Eric Nilsson, and this week's guest is SLUG Magazine's very own Angela Brown. Now, Angela Brown has been the executive editor for SLUG Magazine since before the adoption of the internet. Now, she has seen this business change from a team of 3 people to now a team of over 100 people, including all of the volunteers that help support her. Not only has she made SLUG Magazine into what it is today, she also created Craft Lake City, a festival involved with bringing creators together and championing them in their own respective craft. So, great conversation with her, born and raised in Emigration Canyon. But let's jump into it and hope you enjoy. I'm a big believer in day job, I don't love, it's not, that's not the passion, but I like it enough that it takes care of my life and livelihood and gives me something that I don't want to bang my head against.
And you could probably clock in and clock out.
Yeah.
As opposed to 10 o'clock at night, Saturday morning or something.
Well, and that was one thing that, when I started that job, that was only in February. And so when I was interviewing for it, he's like, well, tell me about you. I'm like, by the way, I'm not a morning person. I'm not going to work East Coast hours. My ADHD is in a way I can't sit down in front of a computer for 9 hours. So I like to take breaks. I also host a podcast. So sometimes I'm going to have to take a break during the middle of the day to go record, but I'll make up for it when I just later in the day or at different times. And if you feel like things aren't working, let me know.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, sounds like you know what you're doing. So go do it. So it's nice where he just kind of gives me the freedom and autonomy and I do it.
That's great. So he's not like, you only worked 36 hours.
Oh
week.
God. If he was that person, I would not be employed by him.
Cool. He's just like, get the job done.
Yeah.
Here's some money.
Exactly. Crazy concept. But no, it works out. And then I don't know, it's been fun to where I have work that's it's fine. It is what it is. I'll never be the person that just makes the career your entire personality.
Yeah.
But it's fun to have.
But you kind of are though with this, right?
Yeah, well, that's the thing I was going to say is this started off as this passion project / itch that I didn't know at the time how much I needed to scratch.
Yeah.
And then as this has just become such of its own thing, it's okay, now I have both of these things. Even until recently, I released, posted on Instagram about it, said it in the newsletter, and said it on the Tuesday update I do every Tuesday. But I'm there's a lot going on in my life right now, and I just kind of need to pause, chill, and just kind of reset, reconnect, rethink things. And so that's where it's all right, let's do a clean cut for season 1, take a couple months, focus on other things, take a breath. Even not just this and work, but then just general state of the world is a lot. And I try not to let it make me be a lot, but then it is a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So just trying to take care of myself.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good job.
It's only one person will ever care about me as much as they need to. And it's me.
It's true.
So little by little.
Good job.
Yeah. Angela, I'm excited.
I'm excited too.
Because so first things first, one thing that I will always pride myself on, well, not pride myself on, but I'm never interested in the shiny side of Salt Lake. I'm not the person who, I was talking to a friend who, he lives in Federal Heights. He has a name that's on a lot of buildings around the University of Utah campus, a great friend of mine. And then we were talking about where we live, and I was like, oh, I live in Marmalade District. And they're like, well, I hear that there's just so many bad. I'm like, not really. I see a homeless person talking to himself every now and then, and it's up and coming, and there's great things and great people. But I'm always so much more interested in the underbelly. I'd rather go grab a new sweatshirt at the heavy metal shop than try to go to Anthropology at the mall and try to find something that works with a nice candle to pair. And which my mom is always just no, I just don't understand why you're doing this sort of thing. And I'm like, Mother, listen, that's okay. You don't have to understand everything. And so, SLUG itself, Salt Lake Underground, has always been, for over almost 30 years. No.
37 in February.
Yeah. Because I was thinking since it was in your tenure, well, you started in 97, which we'll get to, and then took over the helm in 2000.
Yeah. You've done your research. Look at that.
I honestly, I did more than I usually do. I like to be, I don't like to be very prepared because I like to just discover things on the fly because it's more fun for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been interesting because that's always been kind of you go to the gas station, you go to the grocery store, you go to your favorite store, and there's always like a SLUG stand there. And so it's kind of always one of these background things. And then as I've gotten to know people better, talk to people more, and just experienced it more, it's like, oh, like they're the ones that kind of talk about the things that nobody else talks about. And I've been doing it for longer than people have been talking about things.
It's a lifestyle.
It is.
Yeah.
So excited to hear more about it, and especially from your perspective of it all, in all of it. But because I didn't even do my research on this, but are you even originally from Salt Lake?
I am.
Okay.
Born and raised.
Where at?
So what neighborhood?
Yeah, I mean, just
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
I'd love to. Yeah, I grew up in Emigration Canyon.
Oh,
but this
what
is
a gem.
before. Yeah, this is a little bit before what it is now, which it's still great now.
Yes.
But back then it was full of hippies and an LDS community. And I was part of the LDS community with my family.
Makes sense.
And yeah, it was a great place to grow up. Not nearly as many, probably like I'd say at least a half of what the population is up there now. But it was also kind of isolating.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't mind that.
Yeah.
But it really gave me a great appreciation for nature. And Emigration Canyon is really it's like a 5-10 minute drive from the University of Utah campus and like 20 minutes from downtown. So it's really the best of both worlds. You get all this beautiful nature and then you get city life too.
Yeah, and it's been fun to see how it's changed over time. Because like even when I was growing up, like I knew it was there. I knew that it kind of had this weird back connection to get to I-80.
Yeah, in Park City.
But I never really experienced it. And then there's a period in my life, like 7-ish years ago, where road biking a lot. And so if you're a cyclist in Utah,
you're right. I
go up and down Emigration all day, every day. And so that's when it's like, I had my little markers because everybody knows about Roos and now everybody knows about Emigration Brewing. And then you have like the fire station on the left, and then you keep going, and then you have the switchbacks, and you get to the top. And so it's been fun to see how that's changed. But it's also become this place where I feel like it's like where a lot of people build like their retirement home or like their dream home, because there's a lot of lots and it's just like an easy place to find land. And now that's turning into like Huntsville and some of these other kind of hot spots. But before that, it was just like you said, it was either
Canyon folk.
Exactly. And so I'm jealous because like there was one point in like, I guess like quote past life where I was like, I think it'd be fun to buy land there, build or buy a house there. And then now that's like,
it's like, might need to keep saving up now. Yeah, they used to call us Canyon kids. In fact, they'd make fun of us because we were in between school districts. So they would ship us, they would bus us to Grant School District. So that's like the Skyline, Eastwood Elementary, because those school districts were waning in population. And then the downtown school districts at the time were still pretty full.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how the city navigated it. So we ended up being bussed out there. And then also kids from Sandy would get bussed into those schools. So sometimes I'd have friends that like lived out in Draper and Sandy.
Interesting.
And that was interesting too. Yeah. But Canyon kids is what they called us. They kind of make fun of us. You country bumpkins.
Country bumpkin kids. We're like,
yeah, it was pretty cool.
Here. Cool. Like, it's like interesting on the topic or side tangent of like high school line, because there was someone who was asked me the other day, they're like, no, his SLC's, aka Bryant Heath, posted about, he's like, oh, here's a sign for East High all the way over in like the middle of Glendale. And someone was like, well, that doesn't make sense. I'm like, I get why you're frustrated, but it really comes down to, because there used to be East, West, and South.
Yeah.
And then South shut down.
Yep.
And there was, and I actually need to validate this because I've just heard the story so many times of like, there was like this class presidents of all these schools, and they're like, well, how do we divide this up? And like everybody was kind of like, oh, well, we don't want to take the west side of like East Highland West. Yeah. And then all of a sudden they're like, all right, like we'll take this, you take that, you take this, which again leads to everybody getting bussed in from across the entire city to get there. But it's just kind of like one of those weird like things that you don't realize, which plays into you guys getting bussed there because these schools are full. And then now in today, it's like all these schools are shutting down because no one's having families anymore.
Right. There's more dogs in Salt Lake City proper than kids.
And I contribute to that.
I contribute to both of those actually. One kid, one dog, one cat.
Yeah, one in, one out.
Works out pretty good.
So born and raised Emigration.
Yeah.
Canyon kid. So talk to me about, the next phase of life was like after Skyline. Did you always think you were going to be a photographer, editor, work at a magazine? Or
well, so when I was growing up in Emigration Canyon, actually, I mentioned it was a little bit isolating.
Yes.
And that's actually when I discovered SLUG Magazine because, I grew up in this really conservative LDS household. And, growing up in the Canyon, you weren't really taught much other than what you were kind of taught. And it
Mm.
was hard to have access to the outside world. I mean, this is pre-internet,
Yeah.
right? And so, there were mail order catalogs, magazines you could get, things like that. But, again, like living in a conservative LDS household, you had to work hard to like figure out what else was out there. And I just always had this feeling that like, gosh, this isn't for me, there's got to be something else than what I'm being shown. And so we actually, my cousin Jared was kind of a rebellious teenager, and he couldn't live with his parents, and he applied to Westminster, got accepted. And so my mom was like, oh, let's have him live with us, And so at the time he was into really incredible music, the music of like the 80s and the 90s, new wave, punk, grunge, hardcore.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned a lot of music from him. And then one day he brought home a SLUG magazine.
Ooh.
And, I was like 12 years old or something. And I was like, wow, this is really incredible. And I opened it up and it was like, oh my God, there's this whole other local world. I knew there was something else, and so he would like feed me SLUG magazines. And so that was my first exposure to it. And then, I also simultaneously just felt like the gospel doctrine that I was learning at the time just wasn't for me. Mm-hmm. And so I was kind of able to negotiate with my parents what it would look like if I stopped going to church.
Yeah.
And
how old was this? Because that's like a lot of like emotional, social, and like spiritual awareness to be like, all right, family, listen. So no more Book of Mormon. I got this SLUG magazine. Yeah, pretty cool. I'll still do my chores, still do good grades, but...
Well, I brokered a deal with my dad.
Okay.
And, my mom, growing up, she had a bipolar disorder. She was manic depressive, actually schizophrenic as well. And so she was in and out of a lot of mental institutions and on a lot of different antipsychotics. One time she's on every single antidepressant that had been out on the market. Just a very complicated, case. And that's also, this is like 70s, 80s, 90s. This is also when mental health was just coming on the scene, because it really is still a pretty new industry. And so she was gone a lot. And so I had a lot of, even though I come from a family of 6 kids, like I had a lot of kind of like solitary time to think about myself and, the world that I wanted to live in and what I wanted to do. And so I brokered a deal with my dad. And so I said, hey, I really don't want to go to church. And he was like, okay, well, I don't care if you don't go to church as long as you're going to some church. So if you can make a commitment to go to some sort of church on a Sunday, it doesn't have to be LDS. And so and I had quite a few friends that weren't LDS. And so, I went, and it gave me a really great experience to go to a Protestant church, go to a Catholic church, go to a Baptist, even went to a synagogue, and so that was kind of fun to just at that age be open up to all these different types of spirituality and religion, but none of it really resonated with me. So
a real modern day Joseph Smith.
Well, so how I solved the problem next was I got a job. So like age 13, I got a job that at a movie theater working on Sunday. So
which movie theater?
It was at Trolley Square. It's no longer there. Yes. Yeah, but at Trolley Square. Cool. Yeah. So that was kind of fun. But yeah, I always knew that I was an outsider. I always knew that I just didn't fit in. And SLUG really was kind of like a vehicle as a young person to help me kind of, I guess, come up with a vernacular for that.
Yeah. I mean, because especially if you're so used to this, I mean, there's like parts of your life at the time, which I imagine were very predictable. Like, I mean, the religious structure, the conservative nature, but then you also have this like opposite end of the spectrum of this chaotic agent of your mother, which can be, she's there, she's not there, having a manic episode, she's not having a manic episode.
Yeah.
And so to be able to say, like, have another anchor outside of that you don't even know. Because again, it's like at the time where the only things you can really embrace are the community that you have, which would at that time be your family, religion, but because you're so physically separated from other things, it's not like you can just go walk around the neighborhood to go interact with the population around you until you have this thing that's almost like this gateway into this other world that you don't even understand.
Right.
But then being able to understand that and then have that open up your perspective. Because again, like today, it's so easy for people to be like, oh, cool, I can search whatever on TikTok. I can open up Instagram.
Yeah.
And the algorithm will be like, oh, this is what we think you want or need, which is a whole nother topic.
Right. Or you can connect with the community digitally so easily. Yeah. And when you couldn't really do that yet. Yeah. Which is kind of, isn't that weird to think about life pre-social media, pre-internet, all of that.
Like I'm old enough that I'd know that it existed, but I'm not, like I watch Friends. I think I watched all the way through, like, almost 10 years ago, which is a wild number to say. But anyway, like it was weird to see how many times they opened up the newspaper. And to be like, oh, like there's movies, there's comics, there's, I mean, sports, news, like all these things. I'm like, oh, but now there's like an app for each and every single one of those.
Yeah.
And so just even just like thinking about like that, like part of things, it's like I know it happened, but sometimes I forget that it did or like remember what that was like.
Yeah.
But so you're working in a movie theater, you're having more exposure downtown, you understand SLUG. I mean, what was that next kind of phase of like quote Rosarian or finding like that path?
Well, so then, kind of the isolation, having a job. When I turned 16, I was able to purchase a car, and then I was able to use that as leverage to switch school districts because I wanted to get downtown to the city, right? So I switched to East High. And so what you're talking about with those school districts and the closure of South High, yeah, that's when they started, when I was going to East, they started busing all the kids up from the West Side, which was actually really wonderful because it added a lot of diversity.
Yeah.
And it did bring in more of that kind of like big city atmosphere that I was looking for, which, in a Salt Lake version. But, on my first day of school, 9th grade, I think one of the coaches was shot by some gang violence, out on the field, like shot in his leg. So it was definitely very different than the suburban, kind of like schooling that I was in before. But it was also exciting. It was a fun place to really go to school with, in the sense that I was just close to downtown, and then I got involved in concurrent enrollment at Salt Lake Community College, so I could leave high school half day and go to college and hang out with more adult-oriented, career-oriented, find the artists, find people that were really excited about creating, and that was so fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, especially to just have your like horizon broaden even more, like because I went to East as well.
Oh, nice.
And like I didn't realize until after of how, because I remember when I went there, it like on the website it was like the most diverse school in Utah, and I like didn't really understand what that meant until I really sat with it. But I was like, oh, we have like all of these Bosnian refugees, which is another whole topic of how that happened. And then we had all of these like African refugees. We had, I mean, Federal Heights, Yellcrest area, Foothill, some of the richest kids in the valley. But then you have everybody from Glendale, and like all the Tongans, the Hispanic kids getting bused from over there. So like I didn't even understand how much that opened for me. But even then I was still just like blinders up and only really interacted with my friends. And even at East, like there's a whole, I don't know if it's still, I mean, I assume it does. Things never change like that. But like the hierarchy of like classes, but then also like you don't really notice like the race and like class part of things until you take it. Like someone like, there was a Facebook post that someone posted, like this got to be somewhere around 10 years ago, but they're like, I'm going to call it out for what it is. Like if you were a white kid at East, that's where you sat. If you're a senior, if you're a junior, if you're a sophomore, if you're a freshman, if you're not white, then you sit down on the floor with everybody else. And if you're like, and I was like, oh my God, like I didn't even like, of course I didn't realize it was Guy Gun. I was a 16, 17, 18-year-old idiot.
Right.
But it's like those things you don't even realize that were going on at that time.
Sure.
But thankfully, like I was someone in, like, I like what you were saying, how you always felt like the outsider wanted to be the outsider and connected with all of these things that were kind of like pulled you more and more away from the core that you knew, whether that be your family unit, like the school you're supposed to go to. And then even then you're like, I'm going to go do concurrent enrollment. I'm going to go find everybody else. Yeah. Like I was almost the opposite in that I found myself partially in every single group. Cause like I was a kid who like, I mean, I played lacrosse the entire school year. So I would hang out with, I mean, like the jock kids, and I lived in Yellcrest with my mom, and so I like had my friends that are all come from like very wealthy families. But then I also would like go like smoke weed with all like the skater kid and like punk kids, and we would go do that. And then I was also in like the school play every year, so I'd always go be with like the thespian kids. Yeah. And so like I was always this person who could kind of relate and sit down and talk and interact and feel at home with so many people. And like even in my life, I've always felt like a lone wolf because of that, because like I've always had like people but never had like a tribe, so to speak. Like I've never had like a core group that's like, this is my people. It's like, you're all my people, you know?
You can fit in with anyone, but at the same time you're still a lone wolf.
Exactly. And like I didn't even put all of that together until years of therapy and being like, oh, this is a habit. And like I never felt really, I don't want to say comfortable at home, but I never wanted to be home. Is like even when I was really young, my mom, before she got divorced from her first husband, family like was just kind of chaotic, and I didn't recognize it then, but there's just like an energy I didn't want to be around. So I'd either go across the street to the Jewish family where they had like 2 computers they played video games on, and like every video game system possible. So I'm like, yeah, I'm going over there.
Yeah.
Or I'd go bike around the cul-de-sac at the German family up the street. Anyway, like I would just always want to get away. And then when I moved down to kind of like Yellcrest area, I'd always kind of have like a best friend that I'd like just go over to their house every day after school and we'd hang out. That's what it was. Maybe go home for dinner, maybe dinner there. But I didn't like realize this habit of just being like, oh, I just really want to be home. Because even when I was there, my oldest sister was a senior in high school. My next oldest sister was a freshman in high school. My mom was a single mom trying to like make everything work out for us and give us the best life possible. So I just found myself home alone a lot.
There's so much mad respect for single moms.
Oh
my gosh. Like my husband sometimes travels, and so I'll be a single mom for a night or a week, or, I'm just like, oh my God, how do they do it?
Yes, totally. And it's wild because like even when I was a kid, like again, you're only as aware as you can be aware. And so I was a pain in the ass for my mother. I'll be the first to say it. But then as I see friends of mine who are now single mothers, family of mine who are single mothers, I'm like, I don't know. Like I can barely take care of my own world.
Right. Well, and how many siblings did you have?
So I have 2 older sisters and then 3 older stepbrothers and an older stepbrother.
So when she was a single mom, how many kids was she
3
responsible for? Yeah.
So 3. So yeah. And I would be, so when they first got divorced, I was 10. Yeah, like 10, 14, 17, like using rough.
Right. And she was probably working full time.
Yeah, she was working full time and then was taking, thankfully she's a pediatrician, so at least had like a great career.
Yeah.
But even at the same time, like she still had to take extra shifts at like the newborn ICU and primary children's, which I remember I would always go because it was like you got your little hotel room and a TV and I'd get a chocolate donut in the morning on the way out.
Oh, that's cute.
Loved it. But now I'm like, you liked sitting in a hotel, like in a hospital overnight, like psycho. But yeah, I mean, in like that, because that was like the world I found myself in. And then even more so in that, like the biggest thing I ever did, probably most consistently in my life throughout my youth, was like rollerblading. And I'd always like, again, I'd be the kid.
You were a fruit booter?
I was.
Yeah.
And I would always find myself like
so awesome.
Around downtown trying to find spots or like with like this different population that I was ever introduced to. And because like I just felt drawn to that. Like I didn't want to go to church every Sunday. I didn't want to be part of this like perfect polished thing. I was like, show me the underground, show me the rough, show me everything else. So I can definitely understand like that draw to it.
Mm-hmm.
So you're at East High School, you're doing all these concurrent classes, and I mean, is that because I know that there's like a piece of finding photography in all of this, which is how you got into SLUG. I mean, where did you find this creative outlet?
Well, I've always been into photography, and I mean, there's actually this really cute family portrait of myself and 2 of my siblings, and I'm 3 in the photo, and I'm holding a little toy camera. Like I was just drawn to photography always as a kid, and my dad would let me borrow his camera sometimes. He'd slide me a roll of film and let me shoot it and then go process it for me. But that was pretty expensive, so I didn't have access to that all the time, so that when it was an elective in high school, jumped for that opportunity. And in fact, the photography teacher there, Mrs. Frascati, she was awesome. She actually was also like a lesbian too, which was super cool. Because this is in the 90s, so it was not a lot of people were out, and she wasn't like fully screaming out, but she was pretty out. And she was really kind, and she kind of saw that I had a talent for it and a knack for it, and that I loved it. And she would let me come into my lunch hour and print in the dark room and process my film. She would even kind of turn her head if I skipped class. But I mean, I was a straight A student. I was in like honors classes and stuff like that. So she was always supportive, which was great. And then when I was able to go down to the Select Community College half day and just spend time learning from the team down there, which they had a great team, better than the University of Utah is actually, ironically, that just really did leaps and bounds for my skills and my career. And I just, just so excited to learn, just couldn't learn enough, just soak it all up.
And talk to me about how you drew these 2 dots of, you have this passion for photography, you've had this data point or points of SLUG Magazine, and at what point did these 2 worlds meet?
Sure. Well, I was also the editor of our literary arts magazine at East High.
Okay.
And I loved to write. I was a good writer. And then I loved music too. So I was obsessed with music. And I got a job at music retail at this pretty cool record store called Modified Music. And it was on the 9th and 9th corridor. And It was a music that specialized in importing in CDs. And, at the time, this pre-Napster, pre-Spotify, all of that, it was really hard to get a lot of really obscure, interesting music. You had to have it like imported in, right? And it was really expensive too. It was like $25-$30 to get a CD, back in like the 90s. And so I was a customer of this place and made it a goal to get a job there. Got a job there, which was really awesome. And then I also started working for I was represented for a record company, for Mammoth Records.
So no way.
And so I was their Utah rep doing that. And so then as I kind of like left East High School and kind of merged into the workforce, working music retail, working for record companies, shooting local bands on the side for extra cash, and then also getting into journalism. It was so fun because it really, when I was able to shoot bands and music, I was combining my love of music and photography together. So that was pretty fun.
Cool. I mean, I always love when, like, so one of my friends, he's Chris, he's one of the guys behind the Instagram account SLC Scoop, and like he saw that, he's like, I want to be involved in music, but it's like such an ambiguous thing to get involved with, because it's like, okay, like, are you going to create music? Are you going to get a roadie? Do you want to go like do sound at a venue or something? And then so he's like, oh, I'll do photography. And it's like, then now fast forward, he's on tour with, I mean, Youngboy NBA, one of the biggest up and coming rappers in the world right now, and it's just like, yeah, like, create the world you want to, put the path in front of yourself and make it happen.
Yeah.
And so I love that you're like able to find these two things, like, yeah, we're gonna put these together. I mean, and especially like there's always a big aspect of SLUG that is music and like music.
So yeah.
Like when I think of like two local like quote brands that feel very synonymous, it's like SLUG and like the Heavy Metal Shop. Just like feel very like, I feel like if they had like if the two brands, if they were personified, hear me out, like they could sit and have coffee and like they would.
Oh yes, love Kevin from the Heavy Metal Shop, dear friend.
Yeah, Kevin is I love Kevin. Like Kevin is, so his two boys, Kelly and Joey. So Joey was one of my first best friends. Met him in fourth grade. We had the same teacher, and he actually, going back to rollerblading, he's like, hey, I'm going to go to the skate park this weekend and go rollerblade. Do you want to come with me? And for some reason I had gone to play against sports and got my, I was like, I want to do this.
Yes.
And like became one of my best friends. And then I moved when my parents got divorced after that. And then it wasn't until 2018 when I get a call from a friend that went to West, and he's like, hey man, do you have a sec? I'm like, what's up? He's like, just so you know, I want to be the one to tell you, but Joey was struck by tracks, passed away. And I was like, and I was living in Seattle at the time. I was like, oh my God, like, okay. All right. And like process that. And then I was like, all right, when I'm in Salt Lake, I'm going to go visit and say hi to Kevin. And then, yeah. Like that never happened. And then fast forward to 2022, early that year is when Angie, Kevin's wife, passed away from cancer. And that's when I was like, now I have to. So I went in, I was like, hey, Kevin, you probably don't remember me. And it like took him a second because I was like this slut-nosed kid.
And everybody changes.
Oh, totally. And so it was fun to reconnect with that. And then, I mean, when the podcast started, like, I remember I wrote down the list of people that I wanted to have. It was like my first list. I was like, Kevin Kirk.
Yes.
And then I'll never forget, I like walk into the store one day. I was like, hey, Kevin, like, we talked a couple years ago again. But he's like, yeah, Joey's old friend Eric. I'm like, will you be on the podcast? And he's like, yeah, of course. I love doing stuff like that. And it was fun to hear just like the story of the Heavy Metal Shop and how much he's done for everything. And like, it's always, I like every time I walk down the street and I see someone with a Heavy Metal Shop shirt, sweatshirt, hat, whatever, I was like, you get it.
Yeah, totally. Well, and just such a nice guy. And it's crazy, all of the stories like you mentioned that he's got. I mean, I was just checking out his Instagram the other day, and Alice Cooper, played, and he was, of course, hanging out with Alice, like,
and they're like best friends.
Yeah.
Like, because in his story, like Alice Cooper is one of the first artists. He's like, oh my gosh, like metal, like this is it.
Yeah.
And then little by little, Alice keeps coming through town, and next thing you know, they're like I remember I was trying to coordinate with someone from Live Nation last year when Alice Cooper was in town. I was like, hey, I kind of want to surprise Kevin with tickets or do this. And
oh, cool. They're like, these are about him.
They're hanging out all day. Like that's part of the agenda. I was like, okay, scratch that. And so it's fun to see how much like, and even just like all the artists that come through, I was like, yeah, let's go stop by the Heavy Metal Shop. We'll do a signing. We'll give him like just always something.
Alice even did like a little video when Angie was really sick, like about Angie and like asking everybody to pray for her and stuff. It was really sweet. Like, yeah, it's pretty special. That family is really special.
Totally. And they've gone through everything. If you're curious, go listen to the episode, people.
Which episode number is it? First season.
Oh yeah, for season 1. It's in season 1 somewhere. Somewhere between episode 20 and 80.
We'll link it in the episode.
Yeah, link in bio. So cool. So you're involved in the music community. You get the job at the place you wanted to.
Yeah.
So when did SLUG come into the picture?
Yeah. So, and of course, SLUG Magazine was carried there, would read it and stuff like that. And then I left Modified and started working for a record store across the block, still in the 9th and 9th, called Salt City CDs. Mm-hmm. And Modified had moved down. They sold their ownership from the original person I worked with, and they'd moved locations. And so they moved further down, kind of where the Maven district is now.
Got it.
And that just changed the whole vibe at the store, and so it just wasn't as fun. So I ended up working at Salt City CDs, and back on the 9th and 9th block. And Gianni, who was the second owner of SLUG Magazine, he would come in as a regular customer. He was really good friends with the owners. They would advertise with them, and so I got to know him through there. And then he found out that I was a photographer, and so he hired me to shoot a cover of SLUG. And that was
a cool full circle moment.
Yeah, it was so fun. It was a really, and so he got to know me through that, and then he pitched me on becoming his managing editor, and because he found out, oh, she can write, she knows a lot about music, she can take photos. That's like everything that I need in a managing editor. And that was back when SLUG was like Gianni and one other person, and then of course we've always had a list of volunteers and contributors, members of the community that have helped in that way. But SLUG was very, very tiny, very small, like a 2-color just print rag, with like a distribution of, I don't know, 3,000 or something like that.
Yeah. So you become number 3.
Yeah. So I'm number 3. Yeah.
Right. And
yeah,
so you do that. And then, shortly thereafter, they're like, hey, how about you just take it and run with it?
Yeah. So I worked for Gianni for 2 years. And meanwhile, working for him, because I was working for him, I was still going to school, got my degree with an Associate of Applied Science and an emphasis of photography. And my plan at that point was they had a program where you could test into the master's program at this university that I don't even think is around anymore, but it was called Brooks University. And this is like 99 or something, right? And you could test into their program and get a master's in photography in a year. And so that was my route, was like, okay, I'm going to get the hell out of Salt Lake. I'm either going to go to the Brooks and get my degree there, or I'm going to take the other track, which I'd also been simultaneously working as, like, which one of these pans out first. I was working for Universal Music and Video Distribution as a college rep. And so I got to work like the first Eminem record. I got to work like the first Gwen Stefani solo album. Like I got to work tons and tons of like major label, big pop albums, which was super fun. And some more underground stuff like Fu Manchu and some other cool stuff. But so I was on track for promotion with them to get moved out to San Francisco. And so I was like, okay, or I'm going to do that, and then I'll just get to their corporate office. I'll be out of Salt Lake in the big city. And then, I can also work my photography career. And my kind of goal was to become a label photographer. So, which was a pretty cool high profile position back then when the music industry was different. And so they would have these label photographers, and you would shoot all their bands. But I was but the track that I was on promotion for was called an artist development representative. And so I would do all the marketing campaigns for the new signs. So sort of for like the brand new artists, I'd get to work with them and work on their marketing campaigns. So I got that promotion. They called me up. They're like, all right, you got the promotion. So I went into Gianni at SLUG, and I was like, hey, this is my 30-day notice. 30 days I moved to San Francisco. I'm going to accept this job. And he was like, don't do that. Like, just take over the magazine. You've already been running it. Like, I want to, I'm not really interested in doing it any longer.
Yeah.
Just buy me out. And I was like, I don't think I want to do this. Like, I really want to move out of state. And he's like, well, just promise me you're going to take the weekend and think about it. And I was like, okay, Gianni, I'll think about it for the weekend. And so I had already set up a lunch appointment with my dad the next day. He and I were super close. He was an entrepreneur. And to tell him that I was going to take the job and move to San Francisco. So that was Saturday. We meet up for lunch. And I also told the CD store that I was leaving, Salt City CDs. And they're like, no, like, stay full time with us. Like, we'll give you health benefits, which to work at a record store and get health benefits. And they actually paid really, really well. But I was like, no, I know I've been doing music retail. I know I don't want to do that. So I was talking to my dad at lunch, and I was like, hey, I have some really exciting news. I'm going to move to San Francisco. I've been working on, a goal of getting out of Utah. I'm going to do it in about a month. They said that I can move in 30 days. They're going to help, with costs and stuff like that. I'll just have to find a place. And then he was like, well, let me tell you something. And I was like, okay, what's up? And he was like, got this family secret that I haven't known how to tell anyone, but hearing that you're leaving, you need to know. And I was like, okay. And he said, I have terminal cancer. And I was like, oh, okay, all right. And he had really been afraid to tell anybody because, as I mentioned, my mom was bipolar schizophrenic and he was her guardian. And, she needed a lot of extra support and care and would need to be.
He's probably got to be the backbone that holds everything together.
Yeah, he was. And so he just he knew that, that was just going to like shatter the family dynamic. And so he was like, so if you're leaving, you need to know that. And I was like, all right, that solidifies my decision. We'll have this other opportunity to do this. So I'm going to stay. I'm going to take over SLUG Magazine. I'm going to help transition you. And I'm going to take over and be mom's guardian. And so that's what I did. And so he was with us for about another 2 years. And I helped transition him, which was beautiful, but also the hardest thing. Cancer, I like to say, is it's a blessing. And, it's the greatest gift because you get time to say goodbye, but it's also terrible, of course, because you see people wither, right in front of your eyes, but at least you get to say goodbye and have that time to like tell them everything that you want and tell them how much you love them and show that love through helping them, so I got to do that, which was very special. And then I also became an entrepreneur and became a business owner, didn't know what the hell I was doing.
As we do when we start our own business.
Exactly, which is kind of part of the process. Like if you knew everything, you probably would never do it, So that was great. And I was like, okay, well, if I'm gonna make a 5-year commitment, all of the other owners of SLUG have done it for 5 years. I'm gonna make that same 5-year commitment, and then I'm gonna get out of Dodge, right? So then after 5 years of, building this business, I was working 2 other jobs on the side. I still stayed a college rep. My boss loved me so much. They were like, okay, you can still stay on for this. And they even gave me some flexibility because I needed the money because I couldn't afford for the loan payments for buying off the magazine and to pay myself and pay other people. So I worked that job. And then I also worked for a photographer printing prints in his darkroom at night. Wow. So I would essentially get up, do a couple hours of Universal music video distribution work because I had a home office. And then I would go to my SLUG office and go work there and crank till about 8:00 at night. And then I would go over to Brett Colvin's darkroom and I would go in the back and he had this other photographer named Sean that was there. And I would print for him for like 5 or 6 hours at night. And I'd leave all the prints for him. So when he came into the studio the next day, they were all ready for his clients. And then I'd just do that over again. And I could only afford to pay one other person part-time for like 20 hours a week. So I was the delivery driver, I was the photographer, I was the editor, I was the secretary, kind of like doing it all. And it was a lot of fun. I learned so much. I worked so hard when all of my friends were out, being 22, 23.
You're just like, I'm grinding all day every day.
Yeah, totally. But again, it was such a rewarding experience. I learned so much. And then of course, that was, then also before that, my father was kind of baked into that plan too. Yeah. And, but yeah, it was a lot of, I learned so much.
Yeah. I mean, as you do, when you do a lot and learn a lot, you look back and you don't understand all the growth, but I mean, what a crazy turn of events from, for sake of the conversation, let's say you talk to your boss on Friday being like, all right, dreams are coming true. I'm going west, going to San Francisco. I'm going to go live my dream, to 24 hours later being like, just kidding. I'm staying here and I'm taking care of my father.
Totally. And then, after he'd passed and after it'd been that 5-year term where it's like, okay, I made my goal. I lasted 5 years. I was finally being profitable. I could finally hire on some other team members. I think I had another editor, another part-time editor, and a delivery person, a salesperson. Exactly. I could finally breathe. And so I was like, okay, I could sell right now and get out. But honestly, I'm kind of having fun now. Now that I know what I'm doing a little bit more, and I'm making some money. I mean, not a lot of money, but making it work, right? And so I was like, okay, I'm not going to sell yet. And then couple years later, I decided to start Craft Lake City, which is our nonprofit. Mm-hmm. So I run SLUG Magazine, which is a for-profit, and then I have what we call our sister company, which is Craft Lake City. Yes. And so that was started just 2 years later. So I was 7 years in, and then decided to start another company. And so, and then I met, and then of course, I was dating my partner too. And so we just kind of decided to stay.
Dang. So talk to me about, well, actually, let's before we go to Craft Lake City, let's finish up with SLUG. So, I mean, from when you took the realm, 2099, whenever that was, talk to me about all of like the milestones that you've helped grow it and from where it is to then to where it is today.
Right. Well, when I made that commitment to stay, Salt Lake City was a completely different place.
Oh my God. It's like pre-Olympics, everything. Everything you look at in Salt Lake today that's relevant before that.
And there was nothing happening. I mean, there was,
That's one thing people don't realize. Like, I didn't even realize this until I was having a conversation here at Edison House with someone who he's got to be in his like, probably like mid-50s. But I was talking about like, Salt Lake, up and going. He's like, yo, the 80s and 90s kind of sucked. There was a lot of boarded up houses and not a lot of economic growth. And it just wasn't a great place.
It's true.
And like a lot of people, like there was a reel I posted about, here's what the Olympics brought in 2002.
Yeah.
What's going to happen before 2034? And so many people are like, oh, that's when everything was ruined. Corporate things came in, which is like not wrong.
Yeah.
But also you would not have the Salt Lake you do today without it. It would not be anything. It would be like Reno would be a shinier star on the map than
right.
Salt Lake.
Although 9/11 happened right before the Olympics too.
True. Yeah.
So that did change, and that slowed a lot of probably what would have happened. Because that population growth never came with the Olympics, like as far as all the attendees. And of course, things were still sold out. Events were sold out. There were still people that came, but it was not what everyone expected it to be. And I think that's what's kind of cool about this second time is it's kind of like, all of the state leaders, all of the city leaders, all of the people back then that had worked so hard for the Olympics in 2002 can maybe see if they can revitalize that the second time. But no, because 9/11 happened right before, because the Olympics happened in, what was it, January?
Yeah, it was, January, February 2002. And that, 9/11, 2001.
Yep. Well, and in SLUG too, we had invested a bunch of money into like this glossy cover of the magazine for that month because we were going to, we're trying to sell and trying to bring in national companies to buy. And also, how could we monetize the Olympics coming in too? And none of that, a lot of that corporate money didn't really come in. Some did, but not as much as what everybody thought because everybody was so scared. I mean, there were, military individuals with M16s on the blocks, on the corners of all the blocks and at the airport. And, felt like you were in Israel or something for a minute. It was kind of weird.
Yeah, I forgot about that side of things.
Yeah. So, but anyway, long story short. Yeah. So Salt Lake was very different. There's so many wonderful events happening all the time now. I mean, we were recording this at Edison House. Oh my goodness, the Alta Club was the only thing that was even close to some sort of cool private club. But and even then, when they just didn't even let women in until the 80s. I mean, crazy. But that was, it was really my commitment. I was like, okay, if I'm going to stay in Salt Lake City, I'm going to make this place the place that I want to live. I'm going to do whatever I can to make it interesting, unique, diverse, cool, to uplift all the outsiders, to make people that like myself that feel like they don't belong here belong. And so that's really become kind of like my life's work, my life's mission with SLUG Magazine and also with Craft Lake City is to really just make Salt Lake City more interesting, more unique, and to highlight the weirdos, the artists, the creatives, the individuals, LGBTQ+, people from other organizations, other cultural backgrounds that just feel like they don't belong here in Salt Lake. Hey, you belong, and let's make some spaces where we can all get together and highlight each other and amplify each other, and just make it a better place to be.
Yeah, no, I agree, and that's like why I love Salt Lake, because like when you look at Utah as a whole, you're like, okay, like very conservative, very religious place, but then you have this dot of Salt Lake, which is tends to be the antithesis of it all, which is why I get so drawn to Salt Lake. I like spending so much time downtown and around it all because that's where that energy comes from. And that's why I like go to every concert that I can and go to all the events that I can, because I do like seeing that side of things. Like give me the room with the people where half of people have a sleeve. There's colored hair everywhere. Yeah. And just like that's where I'd rather be than with, a bunch of blonde fake hair, blue eyes, and that side of
and that's cool too if that makes you happy, and I think that's kind of what's so cool about Salt Lake now is SLUG stands for Salt Lake Underground, but the underground with technology and with access has really blown up. And also what I mean by that is that you don't, Salt Lakers love to rebel and we love to take it really seriously, but we don't have to as much now because society has really opened up. And, you can walk down the street with blue hair and it's not a big deal. Versus 20 years ago, it was a big deal, And I think that's really important. I think that's exciting that underground culture can be kind of like popularized.
Yeah. It's like underground at one point became not underground.
Yes. I mean, and it's, I talk about this sometimes with my team, who are half my age, right? And about music, for instance, SLUG Magazine just published a review of the new Taylor Swift album, and some of our old school, because we've been around for 37 years, we have a nice mix of old schoolers like myself, or even older than I. And then of course, the younger coming up generation that are really excited about what we do too. And it's a beautiful thing. But there was this clash, on our post about, the old schoolers being like, that's not underground, like, Taylor Swift sucks and all this kind of stuff. And then of course, the writer who wrote it was this incredible review written so well, who's such a big Taylor Swift fan. And it's like, hey, there's a space now where pop music can be kind of cool and it's okay, versus back then you really had to prove yourself by like there had to be a hard line between like the punks only like punk music, they can't like metal, know. And if you look at someone, you could tell exactly what kind of music that they looked on based on their dress. That's all out the window now, and I think it's beautiful. I think it's a beautiful thing. It just kind of makes us I think it allows us to get along in new ways and to accept each other in new ways and not judge each other.
Yeah. And I think, and like I'll always be a fan of music because I think music is one of the few things where it's all of us together. There's no us versus them. There is no competitive nature behind it. And even just thinking about the last 2 or 3 weeks of shows I've been to, I mean, I was just last weekend at Red West listening to country music. The hell with it. It was so fun. Like I love putting on boots and a hat and just like ringing into it. And like, it wasn't until last year when I went, the first year, because I was like, I'm not like, I would never say I'm like a huge country music fan, but that festival was the first time I was like, hey, we're just going to 3 days, just rapid fire all of these things. So I was like, oh wait, I don't hate all country music. I just really don't like this, but I like this. This is fine. This is good. And so it's fun to have that. But then also like, the Monday before that, I was at a Sleep Token concert, so like cool. Listening to metal, and then I was like at like a rave before this. So it's just like all of these like experiences I get to have, and I'm grateful that I do. And like thankfully, like the podcast has helped open up a lot of those doors for me, where we can do that. We're now like, to your point, it used to be like, oh no, I'm this, and that's all I can be.
Exactly.
And these lines, like these hard lines, are now these gray areas that we can all explore.
I mean, the punks and the cowboys hated each other. They beat each other up. And now.
It's like Breakfast Club. Like that's how they used to be, is like all these hard lines and different lunch tables, and now it's like, oh yeah, like we all kind of get along more so, and those gray areas are there, which is good because it like allows so much more space for people to interact with each other in different areas and understand people more. And then in social media and internet has helped a lot with that and created like this unifying voice. And then, I mean, devil's advocate on that, like it also is, as we've seen, divided people more,
right.
But then that's again why I like music, because it can like help bring people down.
And give you that freedom to explore who you are and what you like and don't like, and
totally.
It's so cool.
And I love that you've seen this whole journey through it all, because I mean you've seen, even just thinking about broad trends from pre 9/11 to now, it's like, oh, you see, cell phones in their inception started to become popularized, in email, and then all of a sudden smartphones and social media, internet and e-commerce.
So when I first got hired at SLUG, I got a pager. Isn't that funny? It's so funny. Yeah, I got a pager, and so Gianni would page me when he like needed to ask me questions and stuff. It was so weird.
Go to a payphone, call and collect. What's up?
Totally. It's so funny. So yeah, that really is true.
So how many, just for like sake of showing how much it's changed since you started, alone with a person could barely pay part-time. What does the team look like now?
Our team's wonderful now. So we've got 25 delivery drivers that work part-time for us. So they make sure the mag gets all over the state. We've got 10 full-time employees. And then we've got over 100 volunteers. So, and our full-time employees are, editors, they're designers, they are sales reps. And then, of course, we have editorial interns, too. So we've got around 2 to 3 interns that are part-time in the office. So we've got a small army on the SLUG side. It's wonderful. It's so fun.
So fun to see, because, like, That's one thing I love about being like a quote entrepreneur and like starting my own thing, which is fun to see this grow. But
Yeah.
I mean, to the scale that you have where you're like, all right, I got to have 3 jobs so I can barely pay off this debt obligation plus this part-time guy, to being like,
Yeah.
we now have an army.
Yes.
And they all, I mean, even like the thought of just having volunteers, like it
Yeah.
baffles me. Like
Yeah.
it's my life. I really don't have much else to give compared to what I give to everything right now. Like I'm tapped out. I wish I could do more. Can't. Love to, but can't.
Yeah.
And like, so I always applaud people. It's like, oh, you have time to volunteer and you're doing it. Good. Like, thank you for caring about something and wanting to give back.
Yeah. And we have all different types of volunteers. You know, we have people that have been volunteering for almost, I mean, we have a couple people that have been on the team as long as I have in a volunteer capacity,
Wow.
you know, and that can look like anything from them writing 1 or 2 stories a year to being active, writing something every month or copy editing every month, you know, and then of course we have people that are just starting and, you know, maybe it's their inspiration to become a music journalist and they have no idea how to write, you know, and that's really, we shepherd them through that process. And we've had a lot of people that come through our system that have made great careers out of their skills that they've learned from being a volunteer. And so it's a wonderful program where we get to shepherd up and coming, but also work with people that still have those skills, but they just want to do it for fun because they love it. But they've got like, you know, a family and a day job that they need, you know, to support all of that. And this is like their passion. This is what they get to do when the kids go to bed, you know.
Love that. So hard pivot, Craft Lake City.
Craft Lake City.
So like, I love the story of like this being a dynamic in it because it seems so counterintuitive to everything else. Like,
tell me more.
Well, because I just think of like, when I think of crafting, the word in itself, I think of my grandmother in her crafting room in the basement, either making quilts or putting together scrapbooks.
Yes.
And that seems very antithetical to what I think of SLUG. So, I imagine there was some sort of DIY aspect that you were doing in your free time. And then all of a sudden you're like, let's just bring all these people together.
Yeah. Well, you know, crafting, it's a nod to the, you know, Craft Lake City, the name. It's really a nod to our culture here. It's a nod to the fabric of, you know, the LDS community that I grew up in that has a very craft, you know, history. You know, there used to be this really cool store called Mormon Handicraft that was downtown. And there was also a really cool LDS owned store called Zim's that had like all the crafting supplies. And it's really baked into that society. But I love that because it's also turning everybody into making functional devices, into learning how to be creative, into coming together and learning a practice, into tapping into meditation. And so there's that whole nod to like my own personal upbringing that I think is beautiful. But simultaneously, you know, there's a huge movement nationally about how craft is cool. And it's kind of like a retro movement too, because in the 70s, crafting was at its heyday. You know, macrame, plant holders, crocheting, all different types of things. And then it went through this, you know, hey, only grandma does that, right? And so we decided to bring it back. And one of the reasons why we brought it back with this cool factor is not only because it's got this nice nod to our own cultural heritage, but because for me as an artist, you know, one of the things that I haven't mentioned is that, you know, I do a lot of documentary photography, and I do consider myself an artist. And I used to exhibit my work, my silver gelatin prints, in galleries when I could, or art shows. And back in Utah in the, you know, early aughts, mid aughts, it was really difficult to get any sort of respect and to get your work in galleries or to find places where you could sell your work. I mean, now there's wonderful markets every single day, you know, get out of Fisher, there's a market on the weekend, you know, so cool. But back then there was no place for you to get to show your work. And people like myself that were creatives felt like we had to leave Salt Lake City to get our work shown. Even with technology coming up, you still felt like there just wasn't a community that would appreciate you. Well, with all of my work with SLUG Magazine, working with local artisans to design covers, you know, for the magazine, or, you know, we produced a local band compilation series for a number of years. So working with visual artists for that, or even just me being a visual artist and very highly involved in the gallery stroll scene, or even in that scene. And, you know, I knew what I still believe are some of the most creative, beautiful, incredible, talented artists. And a lot of them were leaving. And so I thought, okay, we need to create a community for artists where artists can not only be recognized by the community they live in, but meet each other and get to know each other and can start to form this fabric where they will stay here in Salt Lake City. So that's why I started Craft Lake City, which started as a SLUG Magazine event in 2009. And so we did the first Craft Lake City at the Gallivan Center. And it was a free event, and it was for crafters, makers, artisans. But the other thing about it, it's with that term craft, it's about like blurring the line between an artisan and an artist. Because artisans are craft makers, right? There's a whole process, but really artists are the same thing. They just use different tools, and there's just kind of like a status quo that is associated with exhibiting in a gallery. And then what is, and you know, some artists like myself just never felt comfortable inside of those galleries. And so with Craft Lake City, it's about taking art back to the people. It's about providing it for an affordable rate so that anybody can afford art in their home, because I do believe anybody should be able to have a handmade piece on their wall or that they use every day. Maybe it's some pottery or something like that, right? And so it's providing that access to those artisans. Meanwhile, giving a place for artisans to sell their work and get recognized by the people.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big fan of everything, even like and all the ethos behind it, because it's been interesting. Like some of the rabbit holes I've gone down through the podcast is the artistic and creative community. And even, oh my gosh, what's her last name? Nanette, who runs Salt Lake Art Market, who just opened 5 Lemons. Like in talking to her about that, and like the reason of her starting it was, again, like similarly, like there isn't a place to do this. I want to create it. If started in her house, and now, I mean, she has her own, gallery space that's open year round. And like, I'm someone who, I mean, 5 years ago, if you asked me like, oh, like, are you a creative person? Like, oh, I don't know how to paint. I don't know how to draw. I don't know how to do this. But now, like within the last 3 years, like I started painting 3 years ago because it was like, again, I had this like creative itch, but didn't know how to do it. And a friend gave me a gift for this like 10-week learn to paint class, and like really opened up the door. Cause like all the art classes I took in middle school and high school, it's like, I don't want to try. I'm a snot-nosed teenager. I'm out of here. But then it wasn't until I'm like, hey, like sit with it, try it, like really just get whatever's inside out. Because again, like it's the cheesy quote that's been circulating recently, but like the opposite of depression is expression. Mm-hmm. And so the more that you have a way to express this, get these feelings that you have out onto something, or like it doesn't have to be an artistic way, but that it helps so much. And I remember there was this painting I have, it's on my wall now, but it was of this apple. It was like the first real still life thing we did outside of like shapes and like blocks. And I remember I'm painting this apple, and I'm just like, myself, like, this is so fucking stupid. I hate this. What? God damn it. Like, I suck at this, whatever. And this woman comes behind me, and she like just walking on the class. She's like, oh, that's really good. And I'm like, oh, thank you. But in my head, I'm like, you don't know shit. Like, go away. Like, I hate this. I snap a picture of it. I think I put it on my story, go about the rest of my night. And like, all of a sudden I like pull it back up, and I'm like, wait a minute, this actually is kind of good. And it's this weird kind of confidence that I found of like, I mean, I got something from the podcast, but this as well of like, oh, I can learn new things, do new things, and find new things in myself. Because like one thought I have every now and then is like just using something like music, like the people who are the best like guitarists of all time are only the people who have played guitar. And so who hasn't played guitar that could be, or that could be amazing if they just tried. But again, like we have these weird perceptions of our own ego and personality that says we can't do certain, exactly, whatever that like personal identity is. And I was talking to a friend where he's like, oh, I've tried like painting, I've tried this, and it's just doesn't really, I don't like it. I'm not a creative person. Like, no. You haven't found the right creative thing. Exactly. And there's so many million things of different ways you can do it. And I've tried to always try new things for the sake of trying new things. And like, the cost of being adventurous is some things don't work out. The cost of going out and trying a new restaurant every week is it's not going to be a perfect thing. Something's going to suck. Some you're not even going to finish, but you're going to find some gems too. And so I've always tried to be curious instead of judgmental, and try out the things that I didn't know I have. Like even me and my girlfriend Autumn, who you just met, we were at Target, and there was one of those like, what are they, punch sewing?
Oh, punch needle things.
Yeah, and I was like, those. Should we get it while we watch a movie? Right. And the next thing you know, I'm thinking, I'm like, this is actually kind of fun. I get this. And so like, again, like we have like these beliefs in ourselves that we can't do it. And I love challenging whenever my brain tells me like, oh, that's not you. I'm like, au contraire, we are about to find out.
It could be you. Yeah.
And so I love that you've created this space for people to, I mean, give them a platform, space, place, everything in between, if they do want to have an accessible way to sell, purchase, create a market for it. But then also, I mean, again, like the more people that see that and experience that inspires them on their own creative journey as well.
Yes. And that's why we started our monthly workshop series back in 2012. So that was next to the festival. That was, which Craft Lake City was bootstrapped. We were 7 years. We ran that org with 100% volunteers, including myself. Yeah. So a lot of love there. But then, in 2012, we started doing workshops, and it was because of that same reason, was to teach everyone that they are a maker and a creator themselves. And it's just the reps, like you were saying. You just got to practice. You just got to, and you can be that master guitar player.
Yeah.
I'm learning how to play guitar right now.
I had the guitar in my living room that I told myself I was going to learn, and I've probably touched it 5 times.
My gosh, this is my 4th time committing to guitar. I quit 3 other times. And in fact, I'm a serial quitter with music. Mm-hmm. I've always wanted to play music, and I'm finally ready making the commitment now. In fact, I started a challenge for myself where I have to play every single day for 100 days for at least 15 minutes. Otherwise, I have to quit my band. Because I started a band too.
You're like, I haven't started a band yet, but I'm going to quit it if I don't.
No, actually, so as part of my guitar lessons, my guitar mentor was like, you need to start a band. That's part of your homework. And so it's
an accountability system.
It is. It's accountability. Yeah. And I love my band, but I have to quit if I don't keep practicing.
Because like I know music is like, because I know the podcast has been part of my journey, but I know that there's something after this. I don't know what it is, but part of it's music to me. And I don't know what that looks like. And so like part of me is like, oh, I could go play the guitar and do this. Or like, oh, I could go buy like DJ mixing equipment and go do that. I could like, and so I get torn in so many different ways. But at the end of the day, I'm like, just start with something and you'll figure it out as you go.
Yes.
And so I applaud that you're doing it and have an accountability system that you may or may not quit depending on, we'll find out in 100 days.
I'm going to do it because I'm not quitting. Well, I told my band today and they're like, you're not going to quit. We're going to kick you out. I was like, yeah.
You're like, thanks for supporting me.
Totally.
Oh man. So yeah, I mean, this would be year like 16 of the DIY. I mean, I'm solid.
Actually, yeah. So we just did 17.
Okay.
Because there is a COVID year that was virtual, which was awesome. And then next year is going to be 18.
Wow.
Yeah. So our first 10 was at the Gallivan Center, and then we moved to the Utah State Fair Park. And then year 2 at the Utah State Fair Park was virtual, which was amazing. Actually, it was so cool. There was this really cool program. They actually took it down, but it was called Mozilla Hubs, where you could create your own worlds inside of this program. And you could be an avatar and create these. What we did with it is we created a virtual festival. So we trained everybody in like a month on how to create their own artisan booth inside this virtual world that we built. Wow. That was a footprint of the DIY festival. And then we hosted the festival in the platform, Mozilla Hubs is what it was called. And everyone would go in there, create their own avatar, and then you could meet up and talk to each other and then walk around like a video game style. It was so cool. In fact, It was so cool that we actually, on opening day of the festival during COVID, we broke the servers for Mozilla. It was crazy because like I'd been trying to meet with them. And so we set up a meeting at the festival in avatar form.
Yes.
And so we were meeting in this one room, and I just like went up and we just said hi to each other, and then boom, we crashed the servers. It was crazy. So then we took it to email, and they like had to move all of the storage over on their servers for us. And they were really impressed. Like we were the biggest thing that they'd ever seen built in there.
So cool.
But anyway, long story short, they I think they killed that program like 3 or 4 years ago. So you can't see it anymore. But it was the coolest thing. Virtual DIY festival. We'd actually sometimes just meet in there for teams, like for meetings. Just be like, hey, let's log in.
Yeah, let's log in. Let's go meet there. Better than the conference room.
Yeah, it was cool. But yeah. So now we're in year 18. But yeah, the DIY festival, it's at the Utah State Fair Park. We've got a STEM component. In fact, G Fiber has been the title sponsor of our STEM building for 13 years,
wow,
which is amazing. We have some incredible sponsors. Harmon's, they've been our title sponsor for 11 years. It's really been wonderful to just have some of these really great companies come out and just support us.
Especially like iconic things in the community that
good brands
see something and like, hey, we want to be part of this because we know that it's like, and obviously like there's, I mean, brand recognition for them, but to see something that of all the things that they can choose to support, it's like, this is the thing that we want to put our name on. Totally.
And we do tons of other stuff besides DIY Festival, monthly workshops. We do a holiday market that we're working on right now. It's our 7th year up in Ogden, Utah, doing that. We do a partnership with Mill Creek called the Makers Mart, which is a cash and carry market that we do once a year. This is our 3rd year doing that with them. We do a partnership with Midvale City called Letter West. And this is a conference for people who love hand lettering. Very niche, super cool. But if you're into sign painting, if you're into calligraphy, if you're into modern lettering, If you're into tattoo lettering, graffiti, like this is your conference. It's really cool. We bring in people from all over the world. Last year we brought in Chaz Bojorquez, who is a legendary Chicano graffitier. He's in his late 70s, and he had more energy than like the 22-year-olds that were on the conference. It was so fun. It was a pleasure to have him come out. We've had Seb Lester from the UK, who is a master calligrapher who's done a lot of work for NASA and Apple. This year we're bringing out Jessica, oh my gosh, what's her last name? Hesh? Jessica Hesh, I think is her last name. She's like the founder of the modern hand lettering movement. Anyway, if you're into that, definitely check that out. That's coming up in April. But
this is love attending super niche things that I have no idea about, and just being like, no idea about this. Like I was at when I was at Red West. So when I was with my girlfriend, her little brother was in town, and one of her friends came with us. And when we get there, she's like, I want to go line dancing when we're here. Yeah. I go to the Western every now and then. I'm like, like, why not? But I didn't understand the world of line dancing that it was. Like, because I walk up and I'm like, assume like, I was like, oh, right, boot, scoot, and boogie, like, like same old shit that everybody does. But then I'm like, oh, wait, like, these are all pre-choreographed things that people have memorized, and they play a song, and like, some people come, some people will go. And I'm like, I had no idea this world existed like this.
It's a whole scene.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with, I've never gone, but I follow some people on TikTok that I love to watch their feeds. Yeah. They're so good. It's really cool.
So and the podcast has been a great medium to do that, but I just like find these little things. I'm like, and ADHD hyperfixation deep dive, and let's see how far down we can get.
Right.
So yes, I would love to go to hand lettering fest. Like one of my friends, he lives down in St. George, but he does typography for a career. Like people reach out to him, he's like, hey, this is our brand. So he's like, let me go create a type font for you, be right back.
Yes.
And so it's like those sort of things. I'm like, I have no idea, but I'd love to learn.
It's type adjacent for sure.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
I want to offer your listeners an opportunity if they're interested.
Go on.
So if they're interested in free tickets for the holiday market, just follow me on Instagram. I'm at The Real Angela, and just DM me. DM me Small Lake City, and we'll get you some tickets.
Yes, holiday market. I will be there because I need to go. I need to see the world that you've created, or one of the worlds, one of your Mozilla worlds that you created. Yes. Like, which is why, like, there's few people, like, anybody can be more or less like a one-hit wonder. Like there's countless examples across every aspect of the world, but there's special people who can continue to deliver and deliver and deliver. And like you were one of these people who's been like, okay, here's this like magazine / like pseudo communities that's existed forever. I'm going to take it, and then boom. And then you're like, hey, like there's kind of this like appetite for these craft and creative people. I'm going to do this, and then boom. And so I love that you're this person that's been able to just take, MacGyver the way out of things that you've seen, and been able to create a space in a place where people didn't wanted it. Because it's a hard thing to do. Like even I was at this event on Tuesday. It was down at and I was down at the Green Room for this event platform. And it was like mostly people who just throw a lot of events. And like there's people who've done it for decades. There's people who've done it for weeks. And like it was just kind of talking to people. It's like, because like for an event, you have like most things, but for sake of the argument on this one, let's say events, like you have to convince someone to do something new and change their behavior to go somewhere they haven't been before, which is a lot.
It is a lot.
And so we're kind of talking about like, oh, like people want to be places, but it's hard for them to go places, social anxiety, post-COVID, blah, blah, blah. And so the thought of like that alone in its own world is one thing, and to do that one time, but then to create all of these different avenues of like not just Craft Lake City, but then all these monthly workshops and like all of these other niche and nuanced things that you've created is pretty spectacular. Like kudos to you and everything that you've done. Like that's a lot to do as someone who's like trying and have a budding community that I'm trying to put together. Like I scratch my head at it a lot sometimes, and often in frustration. So keep doing it.
Thank you.
I know there's something else you're going to do eventually, and it's going to grow like a weed.
I've got some plans. You just wait.
Love it, Angela. Well, before we wrap up, want to ask you the two questions I always ask everybody on every episode. Number one, if you could have someone on the Small Lake City podcast and hear more about what they've been up to and hear their story, who would you want to hear from?
Oh, yeah. Oh, gosh. There's so many wonderful people I would love to hear from. Oh my goodness, who should I nominate?
I don't know. That's a great question.
Like, who should I nominate out of everyone? And I knew I was going to be asked this, so I should have come I should have come more prepared. But it's such a great question. I would say, let's see, who has not been on that needs to be on? There's like a lot of people swirling through my mind right now, but I want to choose someone a little unique that maybe you don't know.
Those are my favorite. Because like the things I know about, I can ask them, I can work on that. But I love the things I'm like, yeah, I have no idea. Would love to go down another rabbit hole.
You know, maybe since we're talking about music and maybe my guitar mentor is someone you should have on.
Tell me more.
David Payne.
David Payne. Why does that name sound famous?
Because he's a local legend.
Of course.
Yeah. And he's got a lot of, he could tell you a lot about the Salt Lake City music scene.
Cool.
He's still very active in it and has been very active in it for the past 30 years.
Totally.
And even the Provo music scene. So I think he would be wonderful. Oh, Provo music scene though too. Corey Fox. You need to have Corey on. Oh, Corey's behind Velour. In fact, you definitely need to have him on because he's celebrating Velour's anniversary. How many years is it in January? It might be 15 or is it 20? I don't know. But he's behind, I mean, all of the big bands that have come out of Provo. That's a Corey.
Well, it's like even, I just saw the announcement that for Red Fest at the U, it's Neon Trees. Yeah. They're one that came out of there.
Oh,
like, cause yeah, the amount of music that's come from Utah that like, I mean, there's the people that know about of like the connections of Imagine Dragons and Neon Trees and the Used. But then there's also so many more that people like don't realize all of the, like even when I went and saw, who did I go see recently? This is getting another deep dive into my music breath. Oh yeah, Empire of the Sun.
Oh yeah.
When I was there, like, so one of my friends DMs me last, because I was like wanted to go, but I was tired. And one of my friends actually two friends separately text me who were friends with each other. They didn't realize they both text me, but they did. Like, we should go. I'm like, I really don't want to pay for it. But like, let me see if I can text someone and like, yada, yada, yada. I was like able to get a ticket. And then I get there and they're like, oh, we got tickets too. And they're like, well, how'd you do? I'm like, I just know like some people at Grand Area worked out. They're like, oh, well, someone we went to high school with who was a dancer in High School Musical, her brother is the bassist for Empire of the Sun. And she used to be one of the background dancers for them. So that's how we got tickets.
I love it.
And even when... Oh my God. Oh yeah. I was at the airport before Red West because I was coming back from Vegas for a work trip and I see these guys like grabbing like a guitar out of like the oversized storage and other stuff. I'm like, you guys are performing this weekend, aren't you? They're like, yeah, we're just in from Nashville.
So cool.
And they're like, yeah, our guitarist is from here. I'm like, of course he is. Yeah. So it's like these little connections that it's not like this huge face, but there's so many little threads between it all. So
we have such a great music community here. It's really, really wonderful. And you definitely get Corey on.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll give you an introduction.
Yeah, no, I would love.
Yeah. Well, and let's give a shout out to a woman too. I'm sorry, I'm answering this with 3 different people, but the first person that actually came to my mind when you mentioned this was Felicia Baca. She's head of the Salt Lake City Arts Council. She's incredible, and she's a wonderful visual artist herself, although she probably doesn't practice as much like I don't. She's a photographer as well. And then she's an incredible musician too. She plays bass.
Of course.
But she's also just a powerhouse. I mean, you know, the executive director of the Salt Lake City Arts Council. So works with the mayor and a lot of other wonderful people here and is really supportive of the arts. And she's got some exciting things that she could talk about. So you should have her on too.
Deal. No, great recommendations. And then lastly, if people want to find out more about Craft Lake City, all the other things attached with that, SLUG or you, what's the best place to find more information?
Yeah, follow me on my personal Instagram at @TheRealAngela.
Which is amazing that you have that handle. That's a good one.
Thank you.
I feel like we're past the time. Like it happened with emails a while ago where you can't really like have your name anymore. Like it has to be something. And like with Instagram and other things, it's like, yeah, like you can't get your name or like, especially like a more generic name. Like Angela Brown isn't the most unique name. I'm sorry.
No, tell me about it. That's why I like to use my middle initial, Angela H. Brown, because it's every time I'm at the dentist's office, it's true. There's like, okay, there's like 40 of you. Which one are you?
Yes. Angela's been amazing.
Oh, my pleasure. And I had so much fun chatting with you. I feel like I could be here another 3 hours.
That's my problem is like you, like it's a joke. Like when especially with like my golf friends, because like I used to kind of resent it, but now I kind of appreciate it that they kind of hold this mentality of me from like high school. And because like all of a sudden I'll be like about to tee off or something. And then they'll be like, someone will talk about something like, well, the funny thing is like, and I'll start talking like, Eric, shut up and just hit the ball or else we're going to be here all day.
I do the same thing.
Yeah. Like my therapist coins it. Like when I was first talking to her, just like a therapist. Anyway, that's a whole nother rabbit hole. But she's like, well, what's like, where do you find the most joy in life? Like, where do you enjoy this? I'm like, oh, like you get me 3 or 4, maybe 5 friends around a table, a bottle of wine in the middle. And she's like, oh, tabling. And I was like,
Tabling.
like, come again? She's like, yeah, that's what I call it. It's like tabling, of just like sitting around a table, people chatting. Like, that is my happy place.
And that is exactly why you're such a good host.
It's
an interviewer.
I enjoy it. It's fun. Like even this week has been a long week, and before this, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to do this. And then all of a sudden, like as soon as
you're like, should I cancel? I don't know. Should I postpone?
I've only had to cancel day of once, and that was because I was like, anyway, just not in a great mental space.
I'm so glad that you made time today.
Yes, no,
so much.
Likewise. I mean, you have a billion. I have things going on, but you have a billion things going on.
It's not a contest.
Yes, and nor should it ever be. That's my biggest.
Although I'd probably win. No, just kidding.
No, you would win. 100%, you would win. And because like you have a cat. I don't have a cat. You have a child. I don't have a child. You have a magazine. I don't have a magazine.
I mean, we could say yet at the end of all of those if we wanted to.
Don't tell Autumn. She's trying to get me to get a cat.
I think you should. I'm on Team Autumn for the cat. Definitely.
All right, Angela. Before we're here until the kick us out of here, thank you so much. Keep doing what you're doing, and so excited to see what you have cooked up your sleeve next.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Salt Lake City Podcast. Don't forget to like, follow, review, subscribe, and share this episode with your friends. And we'll catch you next week. We'll see you there.